What is going on, guys? This is Miasin. So today I wanted to make a kind of an overview video of all the interesting tech staples and decks that people were playing at YCS Rio in Brazil, because, I was able to witness everything with my own eyes. I was there, and I was, I did see some cool things that, definitely warrant making a video on, because it definitely might be impactful if you are trying to play at the next YCS, either Indianapolis or maybe if you're going to like a European Nats, not the Euro WCQ, because that's going to be a different format. We're going to have Terminal World as well as Infinite Forbidden, and things will be drastically different. But before we at least get Terminal World and the other set, we're getting to the point where nobody's playing Fire King anymore. As a matter of fact, in YCS Rio, only 2 players were able to top with that deck. And then 12 were on pure Snake Eyes, 2 Melodious Snake Eyes as well, if my memory serves me right. As well as, I believe, 5 Wuss's Voice, and then 3 or 4 Tenpai Dragon, 1 pure Melodious, 1 Dark World, 1, I think it was Runic Stun, 1 Flunderies, and I think that's pretty much it. I might have missed something, but for the most part, that was it. Before we go any further, I would really appreciate if you could smash the like and subscribe button. Thank you so much, you are the best, and now let's get right into it. So first of all, what were the most played hand shops? Well, Ash, Imperm, these 2 hand shops were in everybody's deck. These cards are so broken that if your opponent is playing hand shops, then you're always going to be seeing those cards. Whereas some other hand shops, you have a lower likelihood of seeing them. Valor is less good than Imperm, so we saw a little less than that. As a matter of fact, I played Imperm, but I didn't play Valor. Valor was in my deck list until like the very last minute. And then we saw quite a lot of Nibiru's in people's main deck. Not so much in people's side deck. It was especially like as a main deck option in the fire decks, because they have the ability to play like 18 hand shops. And then obviously Mourner always follows suits. If you're playing Mourner, it means that you're playing 3 of each of these cards, because Mourner is objectively worse. And then either Droll or the Ogre as the 16, 17, and 18 hand shop. Some people were playing like 17 hand shops, I think, instead of 18. That must have been Raphael's winning deck list, 43 cards, 2 Nibiru, as well as 1 Kashtira Birth. So the deck list that you're seeing on the screen is like almost correct, but it's not 100% what he actually played. It's a really nice deck list, so huge shoutouts to Raphael if you're watching this, and huge congrats on winning the YCS with Kashtira Snake Eyes. Very good freaking deck for sure. And we're going to be covering the Kashtira cards very soon. But anyways, like I said, Droll, pretty good, and then Ogre was the other card that people were considering either main decking or side decking. But myself, I saw a lot of Ogre. It was, oh my god, almost everywhere. Every single fire matchup that I played almost had Ogre in the main, and they always resolved it against me. Didn't do too much. Honestly, I think this card's really bad if you're not playing against like Tenpai or some random rogue decks. It can be good against Voice's Voice because you can hit their barrier. I mean, you can hit also their Blessing, but that's not really relevant, because if they have Blessing, then they already have combo. Blessing is not a starter. It's more of like an extender or recovery card. So it's not super good. And it kind of follows the same logic as, the other hand shops. Like, they're bad if you draw them alone, but if you draw them in combination, then they're good. So it's really up to you if you want to play Ogre in your deck list. I mean, I've made a video where I reviewed pretty much all the hand shops, and Ogre was like in my tier list of like the decent hand shops, but not the insane ones. Whereas like Ash, Imperm, and even Valor were like the absolute best. And even like Mourner, Nib, these cards are pretty fine as well. But if you're not playing against a fire deck, Nibiru is usually always bad. So that's one drawback with that card. But it is good against like some other rogue decks that did see play. Like pure Kashtira or Salamangreat, some random decks that you don't really expect to see too much, because nowadays when people go like, Field Spell or Special Summon Unicorn effect, you waste your hand shops on those cards, then they can go normal summon Snake Eye Ash, and you're really gonna feel like really stupid for not, holding your hand shop for later. Whereas if it's pure Kashtira, you're gonna feel stupid for not hand shopping them very early. So it's kind of like the duality of you don't really know what your opponent is playing, so what do you do? But when it's a pro player, then you can always tell it's Kashtira Snake Eyes and not pure Kashtira. But one really important advice that I can give you is always ask your opponent how many cards in deck. If the answer is 40, then it's most likely pure Kashtira, because I haven't really seen any pure Kashtira deck play more than 40. But if the answer is like 42, 33, etc., it's most likely Kashtira Snake Eyes, and you should absolutely not Ash their Right Sauce or Unicorn or whatever, so keep that in mind. Now, for the actual Kashtira engine in the Snake Eye deck, it's really simple. it's like anywhere between 1 to 3 copies of Right Source. It varies a lot. I've seen all 3 numbers, but it's always at least 1 because this card's really nice. It searches Unicorn, which searches you Birth, and this card is multiple sends for your Snake Eye monsters. So you always have like some gas and some ways to like send the cards to the grave so that you can transform your Snake Eye monsters, or you can use Original. And Kashtira's effect to banish 3 cards from your opponent's graveyard on the resolution of your opponent activates a spell card or effect while you control a Kashtira monster is also nice. So yeah, there is also Fenrir that you inherently play that you can also search with the Right Source in case you already have the Unicorn, and obviously the Birth allows you to normal summon that Fenrir. Every card is like fine to draw. Birth is like the only like kind of attack at Tomborg. It doesn't really do anything on its own if you don't have a monster, but it's usually not the end of the world. So yeah, a bunch of good cards. There are like non-engine cards that also kind of get you to an engine in a way, not really, but they do a lot, like I said, just on their own. And if you draw like 2 Kashtira cards, then you got 2 level 7 monsters on the board. So one thing that you can do, you can go into a Draco Sack, summon 2 tokens, and then go for your double Link Spider, and then G-Golem Crystal Heart, revive back a Link Spider, and then you can go into an Appaloosa. So an opponent of mine did that against me, and I could not do anything whatsoever. And as a matter of fact, it was even worse because it wasn't using 2 Kashtira monsters, but rather a Diabellstar that I negated because he had a Wanted in the grave. I didn't want to like let the Diabellstar get the original so that he could summon a Snake Eye monster to negate that. So I didn't want him to draw a card, and because of that, he was able to go into a Draco Sack using the Diabellstar and the Kashtira monster. So it's a lot of commitment in your extra deck. If you're only playing Draco Sack, I think it's better. Now, another really nice card that we're seeing in a lot of Snake Eye deck list is Snake Eye Diabellstar. Not everybody is playing this card, but it is a level 8 monster that you can summon very easily using Divine Temple of the Snake Eye. And because of the fact that it's level 8, we're also seeing a lot of people play Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy. This card is very, very, very good. Because it completely counters Despia, since it negates the effect of a spell card or effect. So in other words, if your opponent goes Branded Fusion, even if there is a Branded Lost on the field, you can still negate that. And if your opponent has a second copy of Branded Fusion, it doesn't matter. So that's the beauty of Hope Harbinger. Being able to negate the spell effect is always better than the spell activation itself. So you only really need like Flamberge and Snake Eye Diabellstar to make it. And when you also have Appaloosa, then you can cover more ground. You know, you got monster negates, you got a spell negates, and then you got IP into SP, which is very proactive. You can banish cards on the field, graveyard, etc. So your deck just covers so much, and you can also win against like Flunderies and stuff. Just that your deck kind of loses to Evenly or Droplet, but you know, that's uncontrollable. What are you gonna do? And you also even have like the Princess in the Grave, and there's nice ways of beating Evenly anyways. You got Zealantis to destroy yourself, and SP to banish yourself temporarily, and then you can trigger the Raging Phoenix so it comes back, and then you got a Fire Monster. And you still have the Appaloosa because that's the one monster that you control, you kept with Evenly. So the Princess is live, so you still have like 3 interruptions through Evenly, and you're getting a lot of cards back on the end phase. The Snake Eye deck, if piloted correctly, is just really, really hard to stop. I know I'm going on a tangent, sorry, but I really needed to explain that. And before going into any of the other main deck techs, I wanted to kind of go over, not super important, so I don't really want to waste my time on it, but Lyrilusk Assemble, Nightingale, and Kikinagashi Fuchu are not really cards that people were even like considering or talking about too much before this YCS. It's really just like some people were playing it on a whim. They were like, oh, I've got like 1 extra space for like a card for Tenpai Dragon. What should it be? Either one. So just remember that there is like kind of a duality. One of them loses to like certain cards and the other one doesn't, but it loses to the other cards. So Lyrilusk Assemble, Nightingale, it plays around Santa Claus and Kaijus, but it loses really hard to Forbidden Droplet and Infinite Impermanence, because when you use the effect, you're usually using it on your opponent's draw phase or standby, and then your opponent can chain Droplet or Imperm. But if you're going for a Kikinagashi Fucho, it's always unaffected by card effects at all times, so it's immune to Droplet and Imperm. But if you use the effect and it resolves, then your opponent can Kaiju you and kill you. Whereas with the Nightingale, it doesn't work because it also applies a lingering condition that makes it so that you no longer take battle damage for the rest of the turn. So you know for a fact that you're surviving even if you get Kaiju'd on Nightingale. So I guess that is the appeal. And if you're playing Zeus, then you can also go like Nightingale, attack directly or something. Not even directly, but it's just like you attack, you don't die, you don't take damage. And then main phase 2 Zeus, but it's not really relevant for the most part. And it only comes up against Tenpai Dragon, specifically when you're going first. So many like stars have to align in order for you to use any of these cards. It is simply just not worth it. So follow my advice and just do not even consider any of these cards. regardless of the deck that you're playing, unless you can easily afford the extra deck space. Anyways, for the, I guess it's also not really relevant, but the other decks like Voices Voice, they got Blessing of the Voices Voice, but it doesn't really change that much. There are some nice things about Blessing that I could go over in another video, but Tenpai Dragon is a deck that did relatively well. I only played one, but I kept seeing like people play Tenpai Dragon saying like, you go first, you go first. I don't know how correct that is. Maybe a going first version of Tenpai Dragon might be a little better. This deck is not bad when it goes first because you can still like make Hieratic Seal, which is a very good card. It does more than just bounce back a monster. It also special summons a monster from the deck. And there are a lot of nasty dragons that you can summon with Hieratic Seal, so I could make a video on that if you guys are interested. And now for the side deck blowouts that people are playing, I have been seeing a lot of deck lockdown, like way too many. As a matter of fact, out of my 3 losses overall in the tournament, so 2 in Swiss, 1 in top 32, 2 of them were due to deck lockdown. So that's kind of crazy, right? You can't do anything about this card if there is also like a full, the full end board on top. So there was a moment where I had the Cosmic Cyclone for it, but there was no reason for me to Cosmic the deck lockdown early on because then my hand up was also bad, so I had to go like Talons draw 2 and then make a decision there. And I kind of considered going like Cosmic on the Far King Island so that everything is triggered and then I can use the talents and start playing the game. But regardless, I don't really like the deck lockdown, even though I just said that it's broken. It's also really bad because it locks yourself out. And when you're playing a deck like Snake Eyes, you can't really turn off your deck lockdown proactively. You need Diabell Star very specifically. Original doesn't work. The Snake Eye monsters can't send deck lockdown to the graveyard, obviously, because you can't special summon monsters from the deck yourself. So that would be an illegal activation. So yeah, Summon Limit was always much better than deck lockdown. I don't know why this card is gaining so much in popularity. It is very incorrect because if you get a hand trap to death, deck lockdown doesn't really protect you all that much, so I just do not recommend playing that card. You might as well play like Solemn Strike or like Simul Archfiends and stuff like that, which I just did not see in this YCS. I only saw the same cards, Deck Lockdown, Scale Drain, and Dimensional Barrier. These cards were everywhere. I never got hit by Scale Drain, even though I played 3, but my opponents, I don't think they played that card because they were too busy playing Deck Lockdown. And I think the Barrier was in everyone's side deck. That card was quite literally the most played card of the YCS, at least in the side. In the main deck, obviously, there was Ash and Imperum. But yeah, get ready to see a lot of D-Barriers. So if you're playing a deck like Purely or something, or even Despia, you need the 3 crossout with 1 D-Barrier when you're going second. Otherwise, you will be losing way too many games because, you know, these cards are really popular. I mean, especially D-Barrier against you. The last engine that I wanted to cover was the Melodious engine that people are playing not only in, well, obviously in Melodious, but also in Snake Eye. So Ruben managed to get second at the YCS, so again, huge shoutouts to Ruben. With Melodious Snake Eye, I think it's like a 45 card deck list. And also the guy that beat me in top 32, Pedro, he played Melodious Snake Eye as well. A very good deck. It has a lot of starters. You can go Normal Summon Refrain, that's combo. Activate Ostinato, that's combo. What are they going to do? Ash the Ostinato. Either you have like a second one because you're good at the game, or you go like Normal Summon Snake Eye Ash and you win, because now your opponent has 1 less hand trap and you still have full combo without having to use your Normal Summon, and this card doesn't lock you whatsoever. So yeah, the only thing that you need for Ostinato to work would be 3 Refrain, 3 Ostinato, 1 Couplet, and then 1 Melodious Concerto. And then in the extra deck, you're always going to Baka, and that summons a Refrain from the deck. And then you're going to be going to Infernal Flame Banshee using 2 Refrain because you can Pendulum Summon. You can also abuse Exceed the Pendulum, and you can use SP Little Knight to banish your Infernal Flame Banshee to summon it back again. And then you can easily climb into Appaloosa. You can do a lot of disgusting things with the deck. It's absolutely ridiculous. Melodious Snake Eye is very scary. The ceiling level is off the charts, but you do have to play a lot of kind of bricks, but not really. I mean, these 2 cards are bricks, but if you draw like Refrain and Ostinato, one of them has to be a brick if everything resolves. Otherwise, it's not the end of the world because you're going plus so much off of 1 single card. And you're also going into your Snake Eye combo using the Melodious cards, which is this really scary part. So also keep that in mind. I don't know if there was anything else for me to cover. I think I've went through pretty much everything that people were playing, at least in YCS Rio. Pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.